Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden for another planting video in my brand new herbaceous border. This is exactly where I'm standing right now. And for those of you who just discovered my channel and you have no idea who the bloke in front of the camera is, hi, my name is Daniel. I am gardening at the south coast of the Baltic Sea outside the city of Gdansk. Very close to the Baltic Sea actually, it's almost inside, so the entire garden here is definitely affected by the weather conditions of the seaside, which is beautiful because it is quite mild, and at this time of the year it also means that frost always comes in very late. It looks a little bit like rubble in my back, and there's a reason for it because I'm heavily working in this area still. So in my back this is a new herbaceous border. In my last video I introduced two brand new hemerocallis or daylilies into this area of the garden, which is really exciting. So this is also my mission for this part of the garden, that I want to plant things that I don't grow in my upper garden on top of the dike, which is there. So this is the back of a dike here. So we're really standing at the rear end of the garden. So what I want to do today is I want to plant two more beautiful specimens here that I don't grow in the upper garden. Exactly what I want to do and how I want to utilize this area so I can see and test new things that potentially are so wonderful that I want to have them up there in the garden as well. So what I want to do first is I'd like to flip the phone and quickly show you the area again, because I already put these new plants here so I can show you how I want to put them on the ground. And then while I'm planting, I give you some information about both of these varieties. So hope you are excited to join me for another planting video in my brand new herbaceous border. So this is still the site where I need to come in and start weeding. And first of all, I need to come in with my secateurs and cut back all of these blackberries before I can finally lift them and remove them. Maybe by the end of the video, this is what I'm going to do. I just come in and just clear the top growth basically. So at one point I can just come in with my garden fork and prepare this area, because it is supposed to look like this. Here I was already working quite heavily, prepared the area. Some areas are already mulched, and I think in general it is a nice starting point for this entire brand new project in the garden. So what I did in my last video with you is, and I come in with my finger now, so here is a drift of daylilies, and then over there is another drift with daylilies. They will flower in a tangerine tone, kind of tangerine with a pinkish tone to it, really intriguing color. I mean, I just ordered them online, so I have no idea how they're going to look in reality. I'm so excited about that. But what I want to plant today is this here, and I have arranged them in blobs, and I have 3 blobs of them. So there's one here, and if we continue walking, there is another one just there, and a third one is there, and these are blazing stars. What a name for a perennial. And you can tell that they already pretty much died back. Well, they're not dead. All the energy is stored in the root system, which is good, but it is also now a perfect time to put them into the ground. They're very small, but this is one of those reasons on why I sometimes like to order online, because when you buy smaller plants, next year they will thrive and they will already grow into the natural environment where they will grow, and not in a bigger pot in a nursery where they're kind of just like pampered, and then they are suddenly in your garden in reality and they're like, oh my, what is this? So this is a reason why I sometimes like to plant really these smaller pots, and also they're cheaper, let's face it. What you need to do though, if you have plants like these here that don't look so nice at this time of the year, well, if I just show you, maybe here on the slope, you can see, hopefully, even in the sun, that normally there is still a lot of like bloom and greenery in the garden, and things are still looking kind of lush. That you need to choose just the right planting neighbors for a plant like this here, because you want to hide all of the brown ugliness that's happening at this time of the year. So when I plant, I need to choose just the right planting neighbors. If we continue walking, I just showed you that here there is another drift of the hemerocallis, not a lot to look at still because they're so small now. Then more of the blazing star, and then this is a drift of something that really excites me. Never grew it in my own garden, never seen it in another garden. I've only seen it in some of your videos on YouTube. These are clematis, perennial clematis. So they're no climber. They apparently don't need a support system, and they don't need a support system if you cut them back right. So once I plant them, try to remind myself that I give you the information about it on how to cut them back, because then they should have a nice sturdy framework and they should not collapse or lay flat on the ground. If they do, because it's very windy here, Here it is west facing and wind often travels from the west. But in the back, there is enough room where I can maybe plant some grasses as a wind barrier to protect these really delicate, cute little plants. I'm really excited about that. But what I want to do first is start planting some of the blazing stars and give you all the information about them. I'm not sure if you could really see my back, but it's amazing weather today. It's clear blue sky, sun is out, really beautiful, even though I'm sitting in the shade right now, which is always ideal for doing a video. Well, the neighbor, they are farmers, as you might always see, like all these like tractors and standing around, they belong to them. And so they're working today as well. So they just started the tractor. I hope that this is not going to affect the audio. First thing I want to plant, as I said, are the blazing stars. And I think that they are really a wonderful specimen for your garden. When I gave you a closer look at them, you could already see the foliage and what to expect from them, even though the foliage now is dead as a doornail. But it's kind of like elongated, these blades kind of like grass in a way. Very similar to the Hemerocles. And there's a reason for why I chose these kind of perennials here, because I also want to mix them with grasses. And my idea for this entire area here is to have a little bit of a prairie feel filled with color. And a prairie for me is always like these like big kind of like landscapes full of grasses gently waving in the wind, and obviously this is a beautiful plant to do so. Normally when you plant a border like an herbaceous border or a perennial border, you try to come in with a lot of different like foliage textures and colors to make it exciting, and I will still do so, but I really want to focus on these grassy strappy textures for this area here. When they will come back with all new fresh green foliage next year, they will be really nice and lush green. And this is exactly the color that they will have throughout the entire summer up until they die back. My parents had these in the garden and I always loved them. They combine them with phlox and with asters, and asters are a good planting neighbor for this, because now this time of the year the asters would fill in and there'd be a lot of color, while these are kind of like looking like this, which is not wonderful. The main reason on why you want to plant them obviously are the flowers and the blooms, and this is interesting because I planted daylilies, and the daylilies, they produce these really big kind of like impact blooms, very stellar, zingy rich color, and I think that this is an amazing counterpart for two reasons, which is color and the texture, because here they produce quite long flower spikes. They're really like skyrocketing. And the interesting thing is they almost look a little fluffy, and they keep on opening to the top further and further, and even the span flowers still have a nice interesting purplish color because they will flower in purple. They come, as far as I know, in white, pink and purple. I chose the purple variety because the purple variety has a kind of pinkish tone to it still, which I think is going to work really nice and well with the daylilies, because the daylilies are tangerine, but they also have a certain pinkish quality to the color. So I think that this is something that ties it back together really nicely, that yes, I have the orange, and then as a counterpart I have purple, which always works quite nice in color combinations. But then both of these flowers have something pinkish to it, which I think is going to work really nicely. In terms of height, this is really depending on how happy the plant is. They can stay a little bit on the shorter side, so some of the flower spikes will be just like 30 centimeters, which is like here, and others might go to meter or a meter 20, which is really nice and gives a big impact. This is also a reason on why I decided to plant them in a nice circle, because if you have different heights eventually, I mean, I'm not sure what to expect out of these for next year, but then I think it's going to be a nice tapestry. If you plant them in a drift and then you have like short, short, tall, short, short, tall, that might look a little funny eventually, unless you have a really broad kind of like big drift of these. But here I have more slimmer waves of drifts winding through, so I think that they will be nicer planted in a circle, and then also the impact of these spikes I think will be really wonderful. In terms of location, they are sun lovers. Like even partly shade is not ideal. There is a little bit of shade in this area. Oh, there is another grass here. Ooh, the enemy. This is what I was weeding here. Away it goes. I mean, I'm not delusional. I know that there's still a lot of surprise here in the ground, so I really need to be quite thoroughly with my weeding next year. But these plants here are sun lovers. So partly shade, well, there is a little bit of shade now, and this is always going to be throughout the entire year. So I'm going to see how it is going to affect the blooms, or not going to affect it, but I thought I'm still going to try it. It they get a lot of sun throughout the day. They get morning sun, a lot of morning sun, and then at noontime there is a short period where they won't get full basking sun, but then they get all of the afternoon and evening sun. And because I'm so up northeast here, sun sets really late in summer, so this is definitely wonderful. In terms of soil, they are not very fuzzy, which is always lovely. The one thing that they don't like is to sit somewhere in a very compact, dense kind of soil. Now comes a tractor. Not sure if you can see it in my back, but it's not too noisy, I hope. So they don't like to sit somewhere too compact or too dense. So if you happen to have heavy clay, for example, I would advise just come in with a little bit of fresh garden compost, some sand, maybe some grit, just loften the entire soil up. And when you plant them, as I do now, always plant them dead level. And whatever kind of perennial I plant, I always give them a little bit of a starting fertilizer, which is organic bone chips, because I just have a very good they just work very good for me. I have very good experience with them. That's what I wanted to say, actually. They break down to nitrogen, and they just give a lot of goodness to the roots of your perennials. You might see as well that I plant them quite dense. Normally I always plant a lot of things dense, which also has to do with the area here, because when I plant everything very close to another, the perennials are kind of holding each other when there is a lot of wind. But these plants here, they will just spread out at most 20 centimeters, so 10 centimeters to each side. So if you want to fill in an area well, it is definitely a good idea to really plant them a little bit more dense, so that you really have nice full impact. So all that I'm going to do now is finish off this planting here, and then I take you with me to the drift of clematis and give you some information about those. The blazing stars are all in the ground, so now I can focus on the clematis, and this is definitely exciting because blazing star, I knew it, as I told you, from my parents' garden, but here this is brand new, and this is really what excites me, just to try out completely different new things. Even though I had an eye on them already for quite a while, and I can already tell you the first thing that really surprised me, because that was different to what the online shop said, is that they do actually have a little bit of an autumnal color, because normally they are lush green, and now they are gently fading away in a nice kind of a soft yellow tone. So I thought, oh, this is very pretty and a wonderful surprise. You can already tell the leaves, and when I gave you a closer look, I'm going to give you a closer look again, once everything is in the ground, and show you. They are elongated. They are very delicate. I think you can even see the veins running through. So definitely a nice, very pretty foliage, I think. And with a lovely surprise now of at least a tiny bit of autumnal color here. Obviously, when you plant them, you want to grow them because, well, number one, clematis, that does not need any support system. I think this is already quite interesting. And number two, the flowers. So this is a clematis that has these bell kind of blooms, so kind of like campangula, very comparable. So they will be at kind of this height. I think in total, probably 30 to 50 centimeters is a plant going to grow in height. Maybe even taller, really depending again on the situation, apparently, how happy it is. And then these flowers that would kind of just really hang down like nice blue bells, very pretty. And the tone of the color on this one apparently is also depending again on light situation and soil. So they can be a little bit more on the bluish side, they can be a little bit more on the violet side. So who knows what I'm going to expect here. I have very normal neutral garden soil. So it's not like I don't have a lot of I don't have an acidic soil. I don't have a very alkaline soil. So it's just normal, sandy, very well drained soil what I have here. Again, when I unpack them, nice root system, strong fleshy kind of roots. It's not pot bound, which is really nice. So I don't need to do a thing here. Very nice looking. Very, very happy. What I'm just seeing, this is brand new for me. They have these tiny round nodules here. So I'm kind of is that kind of the same thing as it is in the pea family? Because peas, they produce these nodules and they are full of nitrogen. And they break down, then the plant kind of just helps itself with the fertilizers. So do lupins. I'm going to research this. I'm not sure. I don't want to say anything wrong now. I haven't found anything when I ordered these, so let's see. In terms of location, They are happy in sun and in partly shade as well. So they should be quite happy here because you can tell maybe there are some elders here, so they will get a little more shade, but still a lot of sun. Definitely, I'm going to make sure that these elders not going to grow to a huge size. I'm always going to come in and trim them back. So I'm going to have an eye on that. And if I don't like the elders at all, I'm also not like scared to just come in and just chop them back completely because they are just self-seeding like crazy here. They're not like a treasure plant in a way. In terms of soil, they do like a nice rich soil. So it is definitely good to give them a little bit of a starting fertilizer, again, like I do the organic bone chips. The nice thing about this patch of soil here is I can tell that there were a lot of elders. And for a while, I also just like put sometimes things that I cut back in the upper garden here. So the soil is surprisingly nice here. As if I could see already a couple of years ago that at one point I'm going to plant this wilderness here. So kind of by accident I prepared the soil, and it is actually a surprising nice good quality. It's not too yellow, it's not too sandy. Right, Alfie? The soil is quite good, right? Where's your stick? I just organized a stick for you. Yeah, do you have it? Come on, give me a stick. Yeah, come on. Yeah, oof. This is the game, right? You don't want to give it to me, Well, gonna be happy with that. So yeah, in they go into the ground, and again, when I plant them dead level as they come in the container, or well, here as they come in their little cute plastic bags. Everything is a little mushy by now because I put it here yesterday. And then even though we had no rain, there is a lot of moisture in the air at the moment, so there's a lot of fog. Soil starts to crumble apart a little bit. So yeah, what I'm going to do is plant these in a nice drift, and my hopes are that as they grow together, it's going to be a nice, lovely drift of foliage, and that they can give them support, that they're supporting themselves. Now comes the important part on how to cut them to make sure that they are not going to lay flat on your ground, or that they do eventually not need any kind of support system or staking. What you should do is in about March time, when you normally go in your garden and start cutting back all of your perennials, you do the same here, but you do not cut them back to the ground level. Clematis are defined in 3 different categories, and this is the category that you should not cut back to ground level because then they won't produce flowers. So what you should do is when they are, for example, this height, like 50 to 60 centimeters, you would cut back half. And you will always do it like that because then the bottom half is going to grow sturdier over the years and be a good strong support system for the entire plant. This is what I'm going to do. I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to cut back next year, just half here, so I have like 5 centimeters left. But still, I'm going to trim back a little bit at least. And then I give you updates and show you how it looks. So all that I'm going to do now is finish my planting here. And then I'm going to give you one last look of this area. And I think that this is pretty much the last planting for this year. This is going to happen in this area here because we are so late now. But these were my nice bargains from online shopping, and I really wanted to share it with you, even though there is not too much to look at. Oh, I love fresh mulch. Just this layer on top of the soil, don't you agree? It looks instantly like nice and neat and almost like a finished border. And you know what? I'm really happy that I also planted these clematis because with a blazing star, well, the blazing story of those is, again, I can make perennials disappear in amongst the mulch because they're brown and brown mulch. So can hardly see anything. So maybe from this angle you get to see a little bit. They just disappear basically. But I know next year they're going to come back with lots of vigorous fresh growth, and they're going to be beautiful. Here the clematis, tiny as they are, but they look so cute in the mulch, don't they? I'm really happy with those. And as promised, I just want to give you a closer look to the foliage again, so you also get to see what to expect. Really cute. I like them, so I'm very happy, and I think that this is going to be a nice way on how to enter this area, because where I'm standing now, this is still an area where I need to work a lot in. This is which I want to transform as an extension of my vegetable garden. So well, this is a little bit like my rubble now, all the materials that I use for working. So what I want to do here is when March time comes and I cut back all of my perennials, I want to put an entire new fresh layer of all of this cut back material here. And then I want to put potentially 4 raised beds, just like smaller raised beds here. and maybe have a row for planting potatoes just behind the raised beds. I need to see, I think I might remove some of the elders here. I really need to see how much time I have and how far I come. I mainly need to remove all of these stingy nettles. So this is one of my future projects that I might share with you. But for today, that is it. And I'm really happy that this entire new area kind of starts taking shape. That's it for today's video, and I think that's also it for planting here in this area, unless I come across another great bargain, obviously. So when I see the red price tag somewhere attached to, I don't know, some grasses that I might want to put in this area here, I can't guarantee for a thing. But up until then, that is it. All I can say now is I hope that this is interesting for you. I hope you enjoy, that I take you with me on the journey on how I create this completely new area and new border of the garden. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Thank you so much if you give me a thumbs up and if you subscribe to my channel. And I would really love to welcome you next time around in my garden. Take care, guys. Bye.